opportunities come and gone, but it's SK who ultimately take it over the line, take it to that third map.
I thought all the momentum was with FaZe. I thought they would be able to pull it off actually into. I mean, there are so many spots that look good for them and so many spots that look bad for them. And I think, I mean, first place is definitely going to be a talking point for me, because if you just imagine some of these rounds which he just stole away from them with this ruthless aggression, if they just had somebody watching for that, if they were cognizant that Fer can play in this way towards Banana, then maybe they just win some of those rounds. They get that pick off, he doesn't do as much damage, and there's a lot to think about in that sense there for them. And they're going to certainly feel like they could have won this map, but what a competitive matchup, and what the champion's mindset there from the SK side. Never giving up, always focus in any and every situation, always a plan, no matter what was going on. You have to respect that.
Yeah, first place, certainly some of what got SK out of a hole in that situation. Mad pushes through Banana, great to see, but Cole doing some good work on the A bomb site with the AWP as well, just playing in the corner in some uncommon spots compared to what you normally see in the opposite corner. But I mean, the whole team came together to take it over the line there for SK. Really difficult match for them. I really thought that FaZe were going to take it over the line on a number of occasions, but just didn't happen. I feel like it was in their hands when they were playing the clock down. But there we go, third map.
Yes, and how awesome is that we get a third map out of these two teams, both really, really fighting for this. And again, both teams on the lead up to the major. The timing is really interesting, considering that, again, we have SK in this position where they want to start proving that they can take titles with Phelps. He looks really confident on the lineup. I know he's a player that puts a lot of pressure on himself, but I mean, this version of SK is quite scary. Cannot wait to see more of them.
Over to the analysis desk to talk about game 2.
Never give up, never surrender. SK, despite looking like they're on the ropes and the knockout blow was soon to come, a fight tooth and nail to take us into a third, and this is once again going to be a grand final. We've been really given some fantastic Counter-Strike over the course of today, especially our final day here for the ECS Season 3 finals. We're going to a third map, joined by Sam Days Marine one more time, and of course the ever-lovely YNK. Screw your second name, let's just do it. Let's talk about some Counter-Strike. Inferno goes to overtime, dude. We have, I mean, were you replicating that of James and Dan there thinking, FaZe have this on numerous occasions?
Yeah, I actually did. I mean, they did a great job in that second half on the CT side, but you have to give props to SK. Not just for this particular game. You have to remember, they just played the second semifinal against Astralis, best of 3, Mirage and Inferno going to the very, very end. So the amount of mental fortitude that they have to claw their way back in these games is absolutely insane. Like on Inferno, it started in the second half from the second round. They lose the pistol, force buy. Win that gives them some momentum, and it ended by them winning a force buy to take it into overtime.
You know, I asked the question, didn't I, in the pre-match, Sam, is the force buy culture going anywhere? And apparently SK have just put their middle finger up to me and said, look what we can do. Picking up the game, perhaps off the back of them.
Yeah, I thought the big turning point for SK, though, was, I mean, we're going to remember all the later rounds.
Sure.
But I think it was maybe 2-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was on their CT side. And then they saved that double op setup, and it really allowed them to, like, salvage that half. They had the double op, they had the 3 umps, and then they end up winning some strings, you know, a string of rounds together. And if that didn't happen, I mean, we probably would have seen a pretty lopsided game, in my opinion.
I mean, also, it has to be said, even though they won a couple of crucial force buys, they had some questionable decisions with their buys as well. There was that one round where Taco saved the AWP, but no one on the team had money. So, you know, you have an AWP, 2 Tech 9s, 2 UMPs. That round falls apart. Then you have to eco, and that gave a lot of momentum to FaZe. But, you know, later on in the half, they go on another force buy, and it works for them. So can't really blame them in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just once again give a quick kind of draw along these stats, and you can see one name stands out on SK side of things. Fer had a first half in particular, had a sterling performance, over 20 frags in the one half alone.
It was insane, because you have to remember, FaZe 1 pistol, they lose the gun round, but then they immediately reset the SK. And the thing is, it was Fer with that aggression towards the B bomb site, as Dan and James pointed out. He was backstabbing FaZe on a number of occasions, and the top fraggers in that half for SK were Fer and Fallen. So that tells you they both played the B bomb site. So not only did they lock down Banana, but they also did a great job when they had to either, you know, push behind FaZe or just retake the A bomb site if that fell under FaZe's control.
Yeah, and I mean, Sam, let's just kind of investigate aggressive CT plays. I mean, it seemed to be quite the story on both sides, both teams showing just how aggressive and how dynamic you can be on the defensive side of Inferno.
No, absolutely, especially at B. I think that's where you generally get aggressive on this map. You can throw that third smoke deep, maybe double Molotov take, double nade logs,
yeah.
Which we saw kills come out this game from.
But honestly, I think I don't want to say crucial mistake, but I think it's fairly important. Like, one thing that FaZe should have 100% have done is take a timeout as soon as it was 15-15, because it went straight into the first round on overtime, and that they had no time to compose themselves, basically. Like, you lose a round, that 30th round of regulation, like, it seemed like it was going to fall apart for FaZe when Keo dies instantly, but Rain did an amazing job holding down the A bomb site, not allowing SK to get control of pit, and the team kind of failed them in losing that 3v2, his teammates, basically. Right. So in the fashion in which they lost in regulation, when they switched to the T side in overtime, you have to know SK is going to go for that double op setup in the first round of overtime. And they just went into a default setup, spread around the map, and that really allowed SK to pick them off and get around more or less for free.
I think in overtime, I mean, Cold didn't have the best game during regulation, but then in overtime really stepped up. He literally opt the same spot on CT side every single round and just demolished them, right? Just in the back site towards Emo. But, come overtime, I kind of think the gloves were kind of off. Both teams didn't really have an idea of what to do on T side too much, especially going up against full buys on Inferno with like full molly takes. FaZe was really smart at the start of the overtime. If you remember, like, they just saved a lot of their utility at A, knowing SK was going to take a really long time in the round. Rain like threw a smoke in the middle of sight. It makes them take 18 seconds left, and then they have to go towards Arch into Alu.
Right.
Alu though kind of got taken out of the game for FaZe as well. He didn't have his best performance.
Right. And someone who's often regarded as one of the best, if not the better, AWPers on Inferno, one of the maps that he does thrive upon. And the discussion then navigates from that into what on earth is going to be happening on Train. Is there any closing thoughts that wanted to be mentioned about Inferno and the fact that we're even going to a third, Yanko?
I mean, about Inferno, not so much, more so in a mental state for FaZe, right? Not allowing this map slipping away from their hands, in a sense, to influence the decider, because they are the favorite on Train.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, this is where, the real Counter-Strike happens. You have just, especially, I mean, taking the SK kind of trail of thought that you've already started, they have already had so much Counter-Strike and top-tier Counter-Strike at that thrown at them, and now they've got another map for $250,000. It's going to be truly outstanding if SK can do this. Not only are they against the ropes on Inferno, now they've got a whole other map ahead of them. FaZe, of course, no slouches themselves. You personally can give us, testament that the matches can be exhausting.
Well, I mean, they can. I don't know. For me,
okay.
I never had like an exhausted feeling, like where I just played too much Counter-Strike or anything like that. Like, I mean, when you practice, a lot of the time you're playing for 6 hours in a row. Like
not physically. I mean, we're not talking physical exhaustion.
I know.
I'm talking, you have so much
like
kind of going on in your head, emotions, and.
I mean, I never felt that way when I played. Even when I was like, I mean, we played at ES Aliens where you're playing 9 matches in a row.
To be fair, that was before
hours.
we had arena events while Sam was still active.
Yeah, fair. Well, and Sam is, half robot, so, you're okay with that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's kind of overstated in my opinion. Just personally.
Cool.
I think it's like a cultural difference to an extent. I feel like Brazilians are more emotional than Scandinavians or maybe even like North American people to an extent. So you get very emotional during a game, and sure, for one best of 3 that's fine, but when you have a second one right after, maybe you get drained. I don't think it will affect SK that much. I agree with Sam that like the adrenaline kind of pushes you, towards the very limit. Maybe when the game is over, then you're going to be like, wow, I feel exhausted. But for the actual final, I don't think they're going to have any lack of drive or anything like that.
No, absolutely. I think perhaps maybe overstated a little. I mean, testament to the fact that it is exhausting and adrenaline is present. Fulham had to take a break before his interview because he was so exhausted after that best of 3 versus Astralis. I mean, there is definitely an element to be discussed there.
Absolutely, but looking at this game, on the decider map, it's very interesting because they already played this in the group stages, right? And it was where SK pretty dominantly took the win, but it was an outlier to an extent that FaZe didn't have any control of the economy on the CT side. And the problem with that is you can't really get your own game going. When they switch to the T side, you could see that. Could you try to distract me a little bit more, please?
I'm sorry, I killed a fly.
I have this fly going around my head, and I see you trying to kill it.
I got it. He's been bothering us all week.
Round 2?
Wait, okay, I'll wait for him to land. Sorry, please.
I think FaZe has proven like that their T side is very, very strong on this map. They've shown it time and time again that the hours that they did put in the time that they've had off really used properly. Their executes are super crisp. The flashes are on point.
Sure.
For SK, this has been a strong map for them traditionally, but not with Phelps. And it's going to have to be them finding their mojo on the CT side to kind of stop that new T side from FaZe.
New T side from FaZe, SK returning to what was, you know, at one point their very best map, right? Statistically, it was absurd at one point, Yenko, but seeing how Phelps is integrating into the roster is a question mark as well. Now, Sam, what do we add to the pile of this? I mean, let's not forget, the only map, one single map FaZe have lost here in London was Train.
Yeah, I mean, I think that match was, you know, we ended up saying the score looked a lot better than it actually was. Most of the rounds that FaZe won back in the group play was when they came inner and SK would just kept playing like a retake setup, right? It was just Taco there. He was literally in the very, very back of the site, gave him a bunch of ground. And then because they had so many rounds, you know what they did? They kept going for the round. So they actually kept trying to retake it, where under normal circumstances, you know what they would do? They would say, okay, Taco died, he went 1 for 1. They already have Z control, basically. They have it smoked off, they have Molotovs. They basically have CT spawn control. Let's just save, right? And that kind of piled up and allowed them to get a lot more rounds. So looking at it, I mean, the last game that they played, SK obviously looked like a way better team. But having said that, there's been multiple times that we've seen FaZe actually lose a map and then play it maybe later on in a tournament and beat the team that they lost to. So how much does that really